We did ask our therapist to keep a log every day to keep track of what children they were working with, so that if we needed to contact trace, we would just ask them for that log. And especially at the secondary level, the Furnace Brook and the high school, there are some instances when we have to look at 12 seating charts in addition to transportation. We do have to contact trace 48 hours, either 48 hours prior to the test date or 48 hours prior to the symptom onset. And once we gather all that pertinent information, we create a spreadsheet and we identify the close contacts. And then at this point, we have to check that spreadsheet against attendance records. We have to check it against COVID immunization status and whether the close contacts were within a 90-day presumed immunity period. So all of those situations would make the close contacts exempt from needing to quarantine. So then we edit our close contact list accordingly. And then we go to the next step, which is notifying either a parent, student, or staff by phone that they were identified as being a close contact. We're very careful not to give the situation within the school day that contact occurred, because we're wanting, of course, to protect individual health information confidentiality. So we do that. Then we notify them that they need to complete either a 7, 10, or 14-day quarantine period from the date of their last contact. And we recommend they get tested 2 to 7 days after their exposure date. We also email parents and staff DPH quarantine and isolation guidelines. And then as a follow-up to that, we have to obtain and verify all lab results of the COVID-19 testing to verify, especially the students that are wanting to complete a shortened quarantine period of 7 days. We have to verify that their COVID testing was negative and they're clear to come back to school. And then, of course, all this information gets documented in our SNAP program, which is our electronic health record. And then we also documented in Aspen just with a return activity date, not even any information other than that, so that teachers are aware of when students can potentially come back to school. And then I interface with our building principals, and they send out a close contact letter to whoever was identified as a close contact. And within that letter is also a link to the Department of Public Health isolation and quarantine guidelines. So parents actually get it twice. And then the superintendent follows up with a letter to the Marshfield community with COVID case updates. So that's that process. This is statistics that I put together of health office visits for the school year 2020 to 2021. New this school year, you'll see in the lighter blue are in-person visits, and then the darker blue are virtual visits or telehealth visits. And this was new to due to COVID-19. We've categorized our visits, and all this data I report monthly to the state Department of Public Health. So that's our data for this year so far. You can see that our visits obviously increased when we had both cohorts coming in back to school. Our numbers pretty much doubled. And then this was also a chart that I did for the number of instances of COVID-19 isolation. It's cumulative, so it's staff and students, anyone in our community. So sad to say we've had 398 cases this school year, so the nursing department's been quite busy this year. And then we've also had 2,159 cases of quarantine that also is cumulative. So it includes people that have had to quarantine once or people that have had to quarantine 3 times. But when I put that data together yesterday, I was really kind of shocked that the quarantine numbers were that high. But the nurses have definitely seen it in the buildings. And then this is just a picture of a medical waiting room. Each building had to designate a separate medical waiting room in addition to their usual health office, so that students that met the criteria for a possible diagnosis of COVID-19 would have to be separated in these medical waiting rooms. And here's a picture of one of our nurses, Julie Stiles, at South River School, getting set up to do staff pool testing, which we've done this year. I think we started it in March, because it was supposed to end at April vacation, but we've continued it. We did do our staff, whoever decided to participate. We average between 90 and 125 staff members a week. And luckily we have not had a positive test result. That's pretty much in line with the state. Pool testing, their percent positivity rate is 0.7 to 0.8%. So we're pretty much in line with that, which we're very thankful. It has been negative. And I've got 3 little snippets of videos of our nurses. These are Samantha Cherry and Amy McDonald giving a demonstration on mask use.
Mrs. Landry, I don't think that the sound is coming through for any of us here.
Oh. Okay. I'm not sure how I fix that. So I'll just, do you know, Mr. Costello, how I could fix that?
I am the worst millennial to ask that question to. I have absolutely no idea.
Okay. So I guess I'll pause it. So that's too bad. I can hear it on my screen, so I'm not sure what. There's. Huh.
That's okay. So was that a video though that got shared with the kids, Ms. Landry, and?
Yes, that got shared with the. Yep, that got shared with the students in at the high school and the middle school at the beginning of the year to demonstrate proper mask use. And then my next video, which maybe we'll try this because this
Sure.
The first one was a YouTube. We'll see if this is from our middle school. Can you hear that one? Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's okay.
So I'll stop that too. Huh. All right, and then this is also a cute video that the elementary nurses put out this year on some healthy tips, and that all 3 of these videos did get shared with our student population. So I think I can send the school committee members copy of the presentation, and you can see it because they are cute little clips, and I'm sorry that it's not coming through on the screen.
And we can also post it on the nursing site on the website.
Sure.
The health site.
Yep. Sure, I can post it there tomorrow. Hopefully the videos come through. I'm not sure why that's. I'm not that tech savvy either. So, and then And then this is a slide of some cute student samples of that individuals, nurses received on School Nurse Appreciation Day. And Mrs. Powers, the Governor Winslow nurse, got a cute little poem from a 3rd grade class. And the other, all the nurses got wonderful notes from all their students, but the other half of the screen is from Martinson Elementary School for Mrs. Mudge. But I just wanted to, it's pretty much what we enjoy most about our jobs is hearing from our students and getting the adorable notes that they send us. And then this was a tweet that Mr. Granatino sent out on School Nurse Appreciation Day. And then the statement above that is from myself. On behalf of the MPSD nursing staff, I would like to thank the Marshfield School District Administration and School Committee for your unwavering support and dedication to helping us meet the health and wellness needs of our school community during this unprecedented year. The 2021 school year has presented us all with unique challenges, yet together we have accomplished our goal of every student, every staff, every day, whatever it takes.
Nice.
So that's it.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. That was a very thorough presentation just on all the work that you and your team have had to do this year. I think I can speak for everybody when I say that the past year, I think every single day was School Nurse Appreciation Day. I think that the entire community recognizes what you all did. I'd like to turn it on over to the group for questions or comments, but I want to ask quickly, that contact tracing process that you showed, just kind of for all of our edification and for the edification of the community, typically how long would that entire process from start to finish take with each case that you had to do? Just kind of so we have an idea of the work that was involved.
So since we've had 398 cases, we've gotten really proficient at it. The first month or two, it would take us 2 days for one case. And this year, I'd say there have been some days when we've had to do, say, 6 cases in one day or more. And we've basically gotten it down to a day. So parents and staff members would be notified that day as soon as, but in the beginning, just working out the kinks, it's extremely labor intensive. I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for my staff.
Well, that's certainly not what you all signed up for. But you've done it so incredibly well, and we're grateful for you, your leadership. We're grateful for all of your staff and the great work that they've done. We could not have gotten through this year without you and without them. And that's not just talking for all of us and for all of our students even, that's the entire community of Marshfield. And hopefully when we look back 10, 20 years on this pandemic, we recognize that you guys are kind of the unsung heroes of the entire effort. So thank you very much for all that you've done. I'd like to recognize any other members of the committee for anything that they'd like to say.
Thank you for that, Sean.
Of course, go right ahead, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I always have technical issues. But Ms. Gender, I just wanted to say thank you. I feel like I've talked a lot to you over this school year, probably in years past, but I think it goes without saying that you and all of our school nurses have probably done the work of 3 times the amount of staff that you have. And I think it's also important to recognize that on top of all of the COVID related things you were doing, our nurses were also doing like their normal nurse job, which is a little bit of everything. And so I know Nurse Mudge isn't on here and I've talked about her a lot, but parents across the district are just so grateful for the amazing work that our school nurses do, not just this year, but every year leading up to this in regards to students with health issues, students with food allergies, students with all kinds of needs. I think a lot of times it's assumed that our school nurses only deal with, oh, someone gets sick at school and they go down to the nurse. But the reality is that you all do so much more than that. You're oftentimes a safe space for students if they're having a hard day. If they didn't have breakfast, they go to you for snacks. They go to you for any number of issues and things like that. So you're just also appreciated. And I know personally, I feel very grateful for specifically Nurse Mudge. I've talked with a lot of parents, specifically around food allergies. I've talked a lot about that on here, where their nurse at their school outside of Marshfield, isn't as knowledgeable or isn't as supportive, and it makes school really, really challenging for their child. And so just on a personal note, I feel so grateful that we have you and Nurse Mudge and the rest of our school nurses, taking care of our kids every day. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well said, Kendra. Ms. Boyd, go right ahead.
I just want to chime in and add my thank you as well. As you were reading the statement, thanking the administration, the school committee, I just kind of kept shaking my head thinking like, nope, we're pretty sure we should be the ones thanking you tonight. And, I sort of think back to, as Kendra was saying, all of the ways that you take care of the health and wellness of our students is appreciated, from, initiating the snack backs and the weekend food, that we were focused on before the pandemic. And I know you all played a large role in ensuring that we were able to continue to provide food to kids once we let out of school as well. So, your job was turned upside down. You all responded with a tremendous amount of flexibility and adaptability and creativity. And we could not have done it without you. And thank you.
Thank you.
Well said, Ms. Boyd. Any other member of the committee wish to chime in? Any questions or comments? No? Okay. Seeing none. Jane, thank you again. I want to make sure folks know too, just for you on a personal level, and obviously you have a great team, and they deserve all the kudos in the world. And just to you individually, if folks don't know, Jane not only during this pandemic was working as our nurse leader, but was also working with the Board of Health for the town of Marshfield. I'm sure, Jane, a lot of sleepless nights and a whole different set of responsibilities on top of everything else that you've had to deal with here in an unprecedented year. I don't think we'll ever be able to thank you enough, so thank you.
Yeah, if I could just piggyback on that. I mean, she took on the role because the Board of Health needed someone to help run the day-to-day operations with their support staff there, and they worked as hard as they could, but they needed someone, and Jane stepped in. I believe it was probably last May-ish, maybe. I can't remember, Jane, but she did that last March.
Right from the beginning.
From the beginning, she was there.
The end of March, middle of March.
Wearing two hats, and throughout the summer and into the fall, she did an amazing work for both the community and for our school district. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. And I do, even though it was arduous, I really could hit the ground running because I was involved with COVID from the beginning. But thank you. And I sincerely mean thank you for your support.
Excellent.
Well, thank you again, Ms. Landry. Please pass along to your entire team our appreciation as well. And we hope for a much less eventful school year next year. So thank you again. Moving on to the next portion of the agenda, I think we'll just continue with the informational updates just to kind of get them out of the way here. And we're going to go on over to you, Dr. Martin.
All right. So there has been some conversation about summer learning opportunities for elementary students. We are currently looking at options for that. We've posted for staff, and our staff is rightfully so extremely tired. So we are posting for staff, but that will really ultimately determine how many students we can invite. So we're working on that right now. We would be looking at probably a few weeks towards the beginning of next school year, some mornings, probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings. So again, that's in the works. So more information coming as we make some more decisions in that area. So our elementary teachers, last week, we had a large percentage of our teachers that offered to sit in on some optional elementary professional development with our Teaching and Learning Alliance consultants on small group instruction and reading, strategies for supporting students. There were probably 25 to 30 in each group, which says a lot for our elementary staff that still want to continue in all of this. They still want to continue to find ways to support their kids. So many thanks to them. There is one more session coming up for those groups in a couple of weeks. And then our last thing, we did have our final Beginning Teacher Institute of the year. There were about 20 people. The mentors made a Jamboard about helpful tips to wrap up the year, so the teachers can take a look at that as they kind of wind down this year. And then our new educators created slides for next year's hires, almost like you're in a good place, like here's what to expect. So that was a lot of fun, and many thanks to Linda Herstack for helping run that as our mentor coordinator. So just a few things that have happened.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. I'm going to go ahead and recognize you, Mrs. Scalaro.
Hi, thank you. I just want to echo the huge thank you to the Marshfield nurses. They did an unbelievable job this year. Jane, you did an amazing job, and didn't skip a beat. And it was seeing that presentation just to see how much, you hear about it all the time, but to see it in a presentation like that is truly unbelievable. So thank you. I don't have any other specific updates for the committee tonight, but I did want to say thank you to the nurses.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Scalaro. Appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and recognize you, Mr. Miller.
Real quick, just one quick update. On Monday, the state released their ESSER 3 allocations, and the application was posted. The total amount for the district is $2,780,198. The grant runs through September 30th of 2024, so it can be utilized over the next 3 fiscal years. The due date is October 4th, and the grant becomes available on July 1st. So we're looking to obviously utilize this as we plan for next school year, and then hold on to that.
Yeah, you muted, Tom. He gets so excited talking about money.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure. This piece of paper might have muted it. That's wild. But I'm not sure where I muted myself. But the basics are that it's a 3-year grant expiring on September 30th of 2024, and it becomes available as of July 1st of this year for next school year. So there's a lot of work involved, a lot more work involved than the first couple ESSER grants, and we're working on that process.
So Tom, just for clarification, so ESSER 2 was roughly about the same amount of money, correct? Was it not?
ESSER 1 was in the $300,000 range. ESSER 2 was approximately 1.2 million.
Okay.
This is 2.7 million. Right. So a significant amount of funds. 20% has to be allocated to quote unquote learning loss. We must consult with stakeholders on district priorities. They want to know our reopening plan, which is interesting. I think they're really signaling that some of those districts that haven't quite gotten where we are at yet. But those are the significant parts of the application.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Any questions? Oh, yeah, Ms. Boyd, go right ahead.
Sure. Just a quick question. And if it's something that you want to answer at the next meeting, that's fine if it's still in the works. But I am curious what the process is for determining how to allocate that. Like, what are you envisioning as sort of the ways that you'll go about deciding how to allocate those funds?
I think it's a really good question, Ms. Boyd. I know my listserv is burning up on whether the school committee has authority over this grant versus the operating budget. We're obviously going to consult. I mean, I know Jeff, Helen, Amy, and I are going to look at the grant, look at the 20% that we need to spend for quote unquote learning loss, but obviously keep the committee informed. And I would imagine if we have to post this and receive feedback from the community, that's going to be a whole process. So it's obviously a lot more detailed than the first two ESSER grants. I'm of the mindset that there potentially is a funding cliff. So I would recommend that significant amounts of this be one-time purchases that are ongoing. But we've already, we're gonna talk through the FY22 budget process, but we're in that process of making decisions on class sizes for next year, and a 1 year minimizing class size.
Oh, you're muted again, Tom.
Would be a good use of these funds as well. So it's gonna be quite a process that we go through. Hopefully, submitting this sometime in July, and obviously keeping the committee informed and bringing it to the committee.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Appreciate that. Any subcommittee reports at this time? Okay, seeing none, just very quickly want to update folks and let you know that this committee, be spearheaded by Ms. Brait, has been advocating for some mental health funding opportunities, and we hope to have some good news to share in the next couple of weeks, so at our next meeting. So stay tuned for that. We've reached a point of the meeting for public participation. If you are interested in addressing the committee at this point, you can do so by using the raise hand feature on Zoom, and I will recognize you for public comment. And I'm going to start with you. Nothing. Oh,
nothing.
Mrs. Martels. Wow. Okay. Seeing no other interested parties for public comment. There we go. Eric, go right ahead. Just unmuted you. Oh, might not have worked. Hold on. There it goes.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you go. Go right ahead. Just start with your name and address.
Eric Kelly, Peterson Path. I appreciate the presentation brought forth by Mrs. Landry. It appears that on a chart that the numbers are coming down pretty significantly. And with the state's guidance in regards to masking and distance and all that seem to be being lifted, I believe this March 29th. I'm curious as to when the masking for the students, I know outside has been lifted, but inside the building as well is going to be lifted. So if we can get an update on that at some point, whether the Superintendent Granatino can send an email out or something like that, because I can pretty much bet your bottom dollar that if it's not already happened with the masks, people not wearing them, March 29th, I'm sure that'll incorporate a whole lot of teachers, especially I'll be under the impression that a lot of them have been vaccinated if they have chosen to. So I'd like to see a lot of consideration taken in regards to having those masks gone nicely, appreciatively next week for the students, because I think they need to start seeing their faces and stop breathing in the fresh air in the classrooms and all that. And nothing wrong with opening up the windows with the sun coming in. Other than that, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kelly. Appreciate that. Just as a point of information for folks, those decisions are left to DESE. So that is something that the state determines and not the Marshall Public Schools District. And that has been something that they have continued to say through their guidance, that masks will be required in all public schools, despite the lifting on the 29th and the lifting of the state of emergency on June 15th. But appreciate those comments, Mr. Kelly, as always. Thank you. We have a couple things on the agenda tonight. Going to start with old business. We might as well just go in the order that we've got it. And I'm going to turn it on over to you, Mr. Granatino, for the school. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that yet because one of our student representatives is just entering the meeting. So I might put her right on the spot.
All right.
For the student representative report. But while she gets her bearings, Mr. Granatino, why don't we start with let's go with the academic calendar to just
Okay.
kind of start with something a little quicker than the handbooks.
So the academic calendar was a first read at the last meeting. This is for the 2022-2023 school year. And it's pretty straightforward. We put down the dates around specific holidays. The start date is based again on contractual negotiations that took place at the last meeting, the last contract that we did with the Teachers Association, where depending upon where Labor Day falls, we're either starting before Labor Day or after Labor Day. So in 2022, we will be starting before Labor Day again because of the fact that Labor Day is on the 5th itself. So I think it's 4th and later we go early, and if it's 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, then we go afterwards. So we'll be starting before with Teacher Orientation Day on the 29th, and then kids coming in on the 30th. We build in our PD Day that we have in the first week of November, again, that we put into our contract at the last negotiation session with the teachers, and has us wrapping up pending weather fairly early. It's June 12th they have us right now on the 180th day. So we had a first read the last time. I don't know if there's any questions that folks had or if they're good. And again, there may be some things that crop up between now and 2022, but this at least gives us a base that people can plan around,
Right.
and have an idea of when vacations start and end.
Absolutely. Awesome. Were there any questions or comments from the committee? This was a first read last time. If there are none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the 2022-2023 academic calendar. So moved from Mr. Greer. Is there a second? Second, thank you, Ms. Brait. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? That's a 4-0-0, Mrs. Pazerski. Awesome. So that's one item off the agenda. Lisa Parsons, I saw you logging on right as I was about to move past the informational portion, but if you are here and prepared to give a student representative report, we would love to hear that from you.
Sorry, I'm just having some technical difficulties in my camera right now.
No worries, no worries. This is great.
I didn't prepare a report for tonight, but I have nothing really to report on.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being here either way, so thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Awesome. So we'll move forward with the agenda. We'll go on to the school handbooks. Go right ahead there, Mr. Granatino.
So this is just a follow-up to last meeting. We heard from 4 of our schools, the middle school, Governor Winslow, I believe Martinson, and Ames Way. So we had Daniel Webster, SRS, and the high school had their plans. Again, much like last meeting, the handbooks changes at these 3 schools are administrative only. There's no real substantive changes that their school councils brought forward, nor did the principals bring forward for discussion here with the committee. But you have the copies of their books. The high school did a little breakout sheet as to specifically where their changes were, but the elementary schools are pretty much on the same page, from where we were last week. So if there's any questions or thoughts, you can vote to approve, not approve, but to accept them either one by one or as a group, however you'd like to do that.
At the last meeting, I believe we voted to accept them as a group.
Well, there was I think Mr. Gray had asked to have the high school voted on separately, which is fine. You can do all of them separately if you like.
I reviewed that at the school council meeting. I'm okay with grouping them together if you guys want to do that.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Much appreciated. Okay, so if there are any questions on the handbooks, any logistical issues any questions that have come up with the committee, now would be the time. Any questions or comments, please indicate. Yes, Ms. Boyd.
I guess my only question is whether or not there would be any sort of leftover, or lingering COVID-related, policies that should be noted in these, or whether, and we don't have to, we could keep that as a separate piece to be sort of treated as an addendum or in separate communications, and that's fine too. But just thought I'd raise whether or not this was a place to think about anything like that.
Well, I'm hoping and praying that we don't have to, address COVID-related protocols at all for next year. But if we did, again, many of the protocols that we had weren't really handbook protocols. They were more, again, part of the MOU with our teachers or practices that we had, safety measures that really wouldn't find their way into a student handbook typically. But we have time, so I'm hoping, and going back to Mr. Kelly's comments earlier about any more feedback from the state, if they give us more feedback either for this year or for the start of next year, and we know that we're going to have to do X, Y, or Z, we'll have time that we can, as a group in the summer, July or August, act on that if we had to as a committee, and we can easily insert it and vote, as you said, addendums to the handbook. But I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case, that we're going to be able to move forward in a way that is more typical, more normal for the start of a school year. But we always have that ability to add, even, we've added handbook changes, whether they come through, changes that we take upon ourselves, or if it's things that we do through state mandates, the TFM work that Ms. Galara has been doing, some of those changes that we voted on and made as a committee will find their way into the handbook. So if it's not now when we approve the general handbook, we can still do that before the school year starts if it was needed.
Yeah.
But again, keeping fingers crossed.
Hopefully not, but okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Boyd. Any other questions or comments before we accept a motion on these? Okay, so if folks are comfortable voting these as a group, I would just need a motion to approve the handbooks for the schools that are outstanding. Mr. Greer?
So moved.
Okay, motion's been made. Mr. Granatino, could you just clarify for me one more time those three schools? I just have the agenda.
I'm sorry, it's South River School, it's the Daniel Webster School, and it's the Marshfield High School.
Awesome. So the motion will be reflective of that. Mr. Greer has made the motion. Is there a second? Second, thank you, Ms. Boyd. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, that's 4-0-0 as well. Mrs. Pazerski, thank you very much, folks. Moving on to our last item of the night before we take on the meeting minutes, early release days. And so folks know, I'm just obviously having this as a first read tonight.
Yes.
As I do think it will be important for us to hear from parents throughout the process, but we'll have a vote on this on June 8th. But turn it on over now to you, Mr. Granatino, for some information on this item.
Okay, thank you. I'll be brief. It's pretty self-explanatory. Forever and a day. I'm not sure when it started. It was before I got here. I'm sure some of the historians in the room, if we had Ms. Despierre, she would know, chapter and verse when those things happened. But we've had Thursday as an early release day for years. And again, it's more impactful at the elementary school, where they have early releases on all Thursdays as part of their planning time and PD time. The high school and middle school would access those once a month. But due to the format that we use for our hybrid with the 2-1-2 model, A group being in Monday, Tuesday, the B group coming in Thursday and Friday, and then everyone remote on Wednesday, that became the de facto early release day. We had it as a remote day for the beginning of the year. When we moved to full in person, we just stayed with Wednesday as the early release, and it's worked really well. I'm not saying that 100% of the people want to have it. I think some people, they're ambivalent, but it worked well. It kind of breaks up the week a little bit better than the Thursday early release. We heard feedback from parents. We didn't do a poll of the parents, but we did a poll of the staff. And when you look at the staff, Ms. Marples was able to share the information with us. Overall, the staff was about 60-40 in favor of doing it on Wednesdays as opposed to Thursdays. If you looked at the elementary and dug down a little deeper, it was a little bit more 50-50. I think they had about 133 teachers that responded, and 71 wanted Wednesdays, 72 wanted Wednesdays, 61 wanted Thursdays. So they're kind of split. But I think, administratively, we talked about it a lot, and it made sense for planning purposes to look at that Wednesday. If it remained Thursday, it's not the end of the world. I think people want to plan. I know parents want to plan. So I think if we can vote on June 8th, that would be great. If you want more feedback, we can reach out to the parents quickly and get some feedback on that as well. so we can compare that with the staff feedback. And but I think that people just felt good about the way it worked out this year for us and wanted to continue with it. So that's why we brought it forward. And it's a calendar change, so that's why I'm bringing it to the committee.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that it's a bad idea to maybe survey families on that.
Okay.
Not that was certainly not my intention with the comment, more so that if folks felt strongly enough about it, they could reach out. But I think that's not a bad idea.
Okay.
If
We can do that easily.
Awesome, thank you, that'd be great. Any questions or comments on this item? Ms. Boyd, I see you're unmuted. Go right ahead.
I think I would just, I would like a better understanding of the sort of the reasons behind, what I heard you say it's good for planning, but if there's anything else you can sort of round out with, sort of why make it the change back, not make the change back to the Thursday and keep it on the Wednesdays.
Can I hop in there really quickly, Mr. Granatino?
Sure.
At least from my perspective, one of the things that I think, and certainly not indicating whether or not I'd be voting for it because it's just a first read, but one of the things that I think is interesting about it is the block scheduling and how it plays in with block scheduling at the high school. So right now, on any given week, you've got the same classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the same classes on Tuesday, Thursday. And if you're cutting Thursday in half, you're really cutting the time for those classes that you only have 2 days a week compared to the others that you have 3 days a week. So moving it to Wednesday just kind of evens it out a little bit more. That's just one thing that I've heard from parents and from students even advocating for it as well. Actually, a couple teachers who have brought it up over the years as well.
Sure, but at the high school, that's not every week. That's only once a month.
Once a month, that's true.
Right. But there are those that count up how many times the early release cuts into their time, and it's not a disastrous phenomenon, but it is something that's noted. I mean, one quick basic thought is the fact that we had it on Thursdays, obviously forever and a day until this year, and then Wednesdays to make that change back. I mean, one less change. I think one thing that we've heard a lot from is people just want stability now and just want to kind of have the same if they can have the same. So that's why some of the folks brought up the Wednesday, just because let's keep it work this year. Let's continue with it. But I don't know, Dr. Martin, I know, Dr. Martin is in charge of our professional development. So this plays a factor into those early release days. And if there's some thoughts that you want to share now, we can obviously present more on the next meeting. But if there's some thoughts you have on the Wednesday over the Thursday, because I know the leadership team has felt pretty comfortable sticking with the Wednesday.
I do think that as far as PD goes, having it on Wednesdays just gives people more of a chance to absorb it and put things into place. If it's on a Wednesday rather than a Thursday, there's only one more day. And it also provides, in my opinion, an opportunity for teachers to do a little bit more of using some of their formative assessment data to kind of shift to their instruction midweek if they find that students need support in certain areas. It's much easier to shift in the middle of a week than on a Thursday to shift on a Friday. It's just that's just my opinion. I know, it could go either way, but I just think in the grand scheme of things, it's just probably more beneficial to have so that you have some time to absorb it and put it into practice.
Any further questions, Ms. Boyd? No? Okay, great. Any questions, comments from the rest of the committee?
So we'll bring some more data from
that'd be
the
awesome.
families. That'll be helpful
great.
for you.
Yeah. And that explanation, Dr. Martin and Mr. Granatino, was helpful as well. So thanks for asking that, Ms. Boyd. Okay, seeing no further questions or comments on that item, that is a first read. We will have it on the agenda for the next meeting. We'll have folks move to approving the meeting minutes from May 11th. Just one edit, Mrs. Pazerski, under public participation, if we could just include, amend it to include Eric Kelly's residential street just so it's, yes, please. And that was my mistake, not asking him to reiterate that, but just as long as we can have it in the minutes. And once folks have had a chance to review one more time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 11th, 2021.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Greer. We'll look to the other members of the committee once they've had a chance for a second. Second, thank you very much, Ms. Boyd. You guys did that at the exact same time. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? That's 4-0-0 there, Mrs. Pazurski. Okay, well, that is the agenda for the evening. We will be back here on the 8th of June for what, unless the town tells us differently, will be our first meeting back in person since, my God, March of 2020.
Yep.
So very much looking forward to that. Even though we've all been coming here and I'm sitting next to many of you right now, it'll be good to have our first meeting back and really a nice way of having a feeling of things getting back to normal. So looking forward to seeing everybody then, but certainly we will see each other beforehand because we will be graduating 300-ish of our seniors within the next couple of weeks. So with that, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved from Mr. Greer. Is there a second? Second, thank you, Ms. Brady and Ms. Boyd, same time again. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. That's 4-0-0 as well. Thank you very much, folks.
Mr. Costello, isn't it a roll call?
Oh, yeah, you know what, Mr. Greer, you're absolutely right. So why don't we go with a roll call there, Mrs. Pazurski?
Ms. Boyd,
Yes.
Ms. Sprate, Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mr. Greer.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much,
Thank you
folks.
for picking
Appreciate
that
it.
up.
Thanks, Mr. Greer.